Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I really want to talk about a few things that people get wrong about femininity, through probably no fault of their own, honestly. I do not like this cookie cutter, reductive view of femininity that we've been exposed to. And I feel like a lot of women feel this way, not just me. And the misconceptions that I'm going to be talking about have directly created a false framework for how we view being feminine. All of the facets of femininity that I'm going to explain, which there are 3, are true, but mostly they are just misunderstood, taken out of context, or they're only part of the story. And misunderstanding these facets of femininity, much like, let's say, mistranslating a book that's written in a different language, have done a disservice to women. And these false interpretations of femininity have also led women themselves to lose who they really are and what it means to be feminine, what it means to be a woman. Femininity is definitely much more complex than the divine feminine videos that you'll see on YouTube. It's not just about dressing for your body type. It's not just about your mannerisms. It's not just about, listening to him and making him smile. It's not just about those things. And it certainly is not just about trying to get a boyfriend. Now, quickly before I get started, I myself am a proponent for the dark and unknown feminine, the kind of femininity that's represented by brutal Mother Nature, the femininity that upholds mystique and the sublime, the mixture of awe and fear. So because of this, I feel that I'm going to be bringing a perspective onto femininity that has been overlooked. It is the missing piece to the complete whole. All right, so let's get started, shall we? The first misconception, and probably the most insidious, would be the passive or receptive quality of being feminine. So passive or receptive is the opposite of active, which is the male principle, which can be seen in the yin and yang. The problem is that everyone, women included, fear that passivity and receptivity means inactive or inert. This is not true. This is not correct, I should say. And this deliberate misinterpretation of the passive or receptive quality is where this whole idea of women being submissive comes from. Women being submissive to men, that men dominate over women because we are inert, we are inactive, we are receptive or passive. This is not the way to look at it. There is a much more profound meaning behind it. And to get a better understanding of something that's super, super simple to understand, but can be because it's so simple, it can be kind of difficult to explain. I'm going to take a few quotes from the book The Way of Woman, which is written by Helen M. Luke. The instinct of the feminine is precisely to use nothing, but simply to give and receive. Luke says, "It is exceedingly hard for us to realize in the climate of Western society that the woman who quietly responds with intense interest and love to people, to ideas, and to things is as deeply and truly creative as one who always seeks to lead, to act, to achieve. The feminine qualities of receptivity, of nurturing and silence and secrecy are, whether in man or woman, as essential to creation as their masculine opposites and in no way inferior." That quote specifically from that book is addressing another part of this misconception about passivity, that women can't really create anything. She just said right there that is just not true. Our creation is just different. Our method is different. Passivity and receptivity is about waiting for the right moment to act, the right moment to reveal, just as a woman knows the right moment for her child to be born. This is feminine because waiting for the right moment, according to Helen M. Luke, has no need for willed purpose or for the prestige of recognized achievement. She also goes on to say that prestige and success are the very things that the negative unconscious masculine seeks to exploit in every woman. This desire to achieve, this desire to have prestige, to have stature. That masculine, this is an example of how masculine and feminine can be interchanged in between the two sexes. This is a very dangerous principle for both men and women. This desire to achieve simply for the sake of achievement, to satisfy the ego. Both men and women need to tap into the passive feminine within themselves to understand that anything worth doing self-satisfies. It is not for anyone else, and we'll tap into that again later. Think of all the times, let's say, that you did something, let's say it's a hobby, solely for the enjoyment of it, just because you like to do it. And then out of that time that you spent doing that hobby, let's say, an opportunity arose. You got recognition. Somebody maybe wanted to buy something that you made, or you were able to have the opportunity to make a small business out of it. The principle is that when you don't seek something out, it comes to you. That is this whole idea of passivity, of femininity. It's just this idea of waiting for the right moment, the divine wisdom to be able to move forward, of just inherently knowing what to do next. And to give a very childish but wonderful TV show example of this is in Avatar: The Last Airbender. King Boomy talks about doing nothing. Talks about waiting for the right moment to strike. Whenever Aang is, in the city and he says, why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you protect your city? And he said he was waiting for the right moment. And when he did in the last book, he was able to completely take back his city in a matter of minutes. He knew exactly the right time to strike. And this is also repeated whenever he tells Aang, in order to find a proper teacher, he needs to find somebody who waits and listens, to which Aang eventually finds a teacher that is a small, young girl who's blind. And he learns from her that waiting and listening imparts on him this kind of eerie, prophetic spatial awareness in which he can literally predict someone's movements before they make them. Passivity, femininity. If it's done correctly, if it's understood, it's actually a very empowering thing. The next most common misconception is one that I think bothers me the most. It's this idea that femininity must represent kindness and tenderness and being empathetic and nurturing and sweet, and it's all flowers and it's all pink. Femininity is those things, but it's also not those things at all. That is the more maternal aspect. But then you have the complete opposite, which is the total chaos and destructiveness of Mother Nature. Mother Nature is ruthless. Aphrodite herself, the goddess we all know and love, was cleansed of her alternative title of the destroyer, of the death goddess. Instead, we were just left with the love goddess. But Aphrodite is both. And in fact, her dual-natured name is Androphonos, the woman who killed her lovers as drone bees are killed by castration and evisceration. Sounds cute, huh? I just find it very interesting that the way we as a society view nature is the same way that we view women. We think Mother Nature is just this beautiful, healing, peaceful place. And it's not. You take one step into the Amazonian rainforest and you could be killed in a matter of minutes from the tiniest little bug there. Everything in there is poisonous, everything is trying to kill you. Have you heard of the earthquake in Haiti or in Japan? The volcanoes that erupt and bury thousands of people in a pile of ash. Mother Nature is a cruel bitch. She's unpredictable, spontaneous, and fantastic. And so are women. We are both of those things. We have a dichotomy going on. So as a woman, it's incredibly important to understand that about yourself, understand that femininity can be a bit disastrous and self-destructive and malevolent at times. And we need to keep that in check. The less you recognize that about your femininity, the more you're inclined to ignore it or just pass it off as something, that it just happened. No, it's part of our nature, and it's something that we need to keep in check. And it's also cyclical. So the more you know yourself, the more you acknowledge your femininity, the more you're able to predict when those kinds of things will happen, and you're able to control yourself better. But know that it will always be a part of you. And it's a fascinating thing. Now, the last misconception I want to talk about is something that you're going to look at me and say, Celine, we live in the 21st century, like people don't do that. That's so antiquated. But I see it everywhere. It's this idea that being feminine, looking feminine, expressing femininity is solely to attract a man. No, honey. I have seen a slew of these videos on YouTube. And I have had comments on my channel about how I kind of take what they're saying and bring it into a more liberating space. This idea that being feminine has a lot to do with taking care of yourself and honoring yourself rather than performing or performing for a man. And here it is again. It is inherently attractive to men for you to be feminine. That's just how it is. We are naturally seductive creatures, and bringing out your femininity and displaying it outwardly is attractive. It's a good thing. But for there to be videos in videos about mannerisms, how to dress, how to curl your hair, how to talk to your man, how to make him feel a certain way, how to be there for him and all this, it sounds so much like it is performative, which I think I will be doing a video on performative femininity, but it feels like it's always for other people and not for you. Being feminine and displaying femininity outwardly, it has everything to do with showing what's on the inside, outside. I've talked about this in many other videos of mine. Living for others, performing for others, being feminine for the sake of just showing it outwardly so that other people can notice it is not the way to live. And that does not honor femininity or the love goddesses or the matriarchs or anything at all, because all it does is make you seem insecure. I want to reintroduce a word that we know to have a very, very different definition. The word virginal. What does that term mean? Does it mean a woman that has never had sex before? Does it mean somebody who is pure and sweet? We have a very Christian view of what that word means. But the term virginal actually means one in herself. Virginal, to be virginal, actually means in pagan tradition, it means for a woman to be complete. So to kind of merge the old definition of virginal and the newer version of it, I can give you an example for it to make a little bit more sense. There are many animals in the animal kingdom that are female, that are able to self-fecundate, which means that they self-fertilize, that they are able to split into another animal without the need of the male. And so this is kind of where this comes from, this idea that a woman is self-completed, that there is no need for another in order for her to be validated, or in that case, to complete reproduction. And this idea of virginal comes from no matter how many sexual partners you have, you are still technically virginal because you are not using anything from another person. It is simply just a passing through, which is just another interpretation of that that I read a long time ago. And it has to do with the love goddesses as well, that having sex wasn't a taking or giving necessarily when it came to, they didn't think of losing your virginity. So this idea of being feminine simply to attract a man, it's just silly. Women are supposed to be feminine for themselves. This misconception that women are to be feminine and feminine presenting solely to, seek approval from other women or from men is silly. Women are supposed to dress for themselves, are supposed to be themselves for themselves. They are to exist primarily for themselves. Women are supposed to be, or being feminine means being one in yourself, self-completed. Femininity is simply just an outward presentation of what is within, or the innate femininity in the biologically feminine body. Yeah, those are the three main misconceptions, I would say, about femininity, about women, about being feminine, that I think they're the ones that are getting in the way the most of women, young or old, really finding themselves and understanding their innate femininity. We live in a male-dominated society, so a lot of women naturally have grown to have a distaste for their own feminine attributes. It's insane. Today, I feel like girls need a better role model, or a better model in general of what it is to be feminine. And I think the model should be taken from antiquity. It should be taken from what the great goddesses were doing, what they were teaching, what we can learn from archaic women. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this video. Let me know if you liked it, if you learned something. Please leave a like, a comment. I love your comments. Subscribe, as always. And I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.